Right. Thank you, everybody. Lovely to be here today. Okay, there we go. So, thank you for that introduction, Diane. As Diane said, I am speaking to you today from a small little town in northern Zimbabwe called Chinhoyi. It is actually closer to the Zambian border than to South Africa, so we are quite far north. And we have been here 10 years. We came here from the UK, where we had lived for 15 years. And prior to that, I was born and raised in South Africa. So I've had the privilege of living in 3 very different countries. And for the last 10 years, we have made Zimbabwe home. And so when we moved here 10 years ago, we followed a very clear call. We felt there were some clear signs that there was some change in the air, and it was the right thing to do. And we arrived in Zimbabwe with a great deal of purpose. And it's had many ups and downs over the last 10 years. And I have always been a journaler, but certainly through the tough times and the readjustment of a huge international move, of moving from a first world country where everything works to a third world country where there's lots of daily challenges that are thrown at you all the time, I really had to lean hard into my journaling time to remind myself of the deeper meaning of why we made this move and to keep connected to my vision and purpose. There were many times where I wanted to repack the container and move straight back to the UK, but because I had this vision and I knew that we were called here, that really helped me stay grounded and keep going on the path that was set before me. And so as a result of that, and as a result of the ups and downs of the last 10 years, it has become very important to me. I've seen the importance of having a clear vision and having purpose in your life. And the importance of being able to really dig deep in yourself. When you are finding things that are tough around you, you've got to find the wellspring of life in your own heart, and you've got to draw from the well within you. And so the title of my talk today is From Pen to Purpose, Write Your Way to a Meaningful Life. And I'm going to be looking at 2 different aspects. The first aspect is, why is it so important to have vision and purpose in your life? And then the second aspect is, how can journaling be used as a tool to bring that into your life? And so in my experience, I have found that having a vision and a purpose in life is very important. We live in a very fast-paced world. I recently read an article that said we have moved from the age of entertainment into the age of distraction, where we can't even watch a movie now without checking our phone at the same time. I think, how many of you watch movies and you've got your phone and your Instagram on at the same time? And it's even a movie cannot keep our full attention these days. And so we find ourselves constantly bombarded with things that are vying for our attention. And it's all that we can do is sometimes just to get through our day, because there's things that are thrown at us, there are challenges, there are multiple roles we have to play throughout the day. And it feels like life throws a lot at us on a daily basis. And it's been my discovery as I've got older that some people never quite get around to figuring out what they want to do with their life. Their life just happens to them, and they just meander through life, and they find themselves in their 40s or their 50s, and they think, gosh, I'm halfway through my life and I haven't even got around to the things that I thought I wanted to do. And so the questions, the big hard questions are, what is your vision in life? What were you put here to do? It is so difficult to find the time to get around to asking those questions. And so I like to see journaling as an act of rebellion against the world of distraction. And I have seen how journaling forces you to slow down. There's even research that shows handwriting instead of typing is very good, because if you like me, I can type very quickly, but I write much slower. And so the act of slowing down, where your thoughts have to keep up with the speed that your hand forces your mind, forces your thoughts to slow down, and you actually just start to settle within yourself and you start to ponder some of those deep questions and ponder some of the deeper meaning of life. And so asking yourself questions like, what makes my heart sing? Or what do I find really draining? And even if it's just a couple of sentences, they can be very illuminating and they can help you find out more about yourself. And it can all lead to finding purpose in your life. And what I have seen is that when you live your life according to your purpose and you are doing what you were called to do, it's like a train running smoothly on its tracks where everything is grounded and you just find that you have deep satisfaction and deep meaning in daily life. And so that is what I want to challenge you today. Some of you might have posed these questions to yourself. Some of you might not have done it for a long time. But what is your purpose in life? If you had to take some time and think about that and ask yourself, what was I put on this earth to do? And so when people are faced with that question, some of us are able to immediately get some answers and get some ideas because they've thought about it and they can list off or tick a couple of things and say this and this and this. And that's wonderful. But there are others in a totally different category where they think, I don't know. I don't know any of those answers. And earlier this year, when I was running a journaling workshop with a group of women, one lady put up her hand and she was very real and honest and she had buckets of tears and she said, she was probably in her approaching 50. And she said, I used to know who I was and I used to know what I wanted to do, but I've become so busy being a wife and being a mother and running my business and keeping my household that I actually have lost sight of who I am outside of those things. And when you get to that place, it really is okay. I think it's a good place to start. And when you are raw and honest and real with where you are, that is where you can start to build and you can start to work towards. And so there's an ancient Hebrew proverb that it's paraphrased, but it says, pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being. And I really love the way that has been phrased. Pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being. Because so often we pay attention to the welfare of other things. We'll pay attention to the welfare of our partner or our kids or our business or our finances. And often we neglect the thing that is most important, that brings the life into our life, and that is the welfare of our hearts. And I think that what I have learned is that nurturing your heart is not something you can do in a hurry. It's not something you can do when you're feeling stressed and busy and frantic. It is a slow process. And when you slow down, it is so rewarding. So when we neglect our hearts and our inner world, it will start to show in our lives. And when we nurture our heart and our inner world, it will show completely different fruit in our lives. And so I'd like to pause now and just ask ourselves, what is vision? So the definition that I came up with is vision is a clear and inspiring mental image of the future you want to create. It represents where you want to be, what you want to achieve, and the person you want to become. Vision is about seeing possibilities and opportunities in your life and aligning your thoughts and your actions with those aspirations. And so if you don't have a vision for your life and you don't know the direction that you want to go, you will often find yourself you could find yourself anywhere, and you'll find yourself years down the line saying, this isn't the life I wanted. But it's because you didn't intentionally build towards the life that you did want. And so I've seen how important it is to have vision, because when you have vision, you get direction, you get clarity, and you get purpose. And especially in the world full of distractions, it helps you to stay centered and to stay grounded on what you find important. So without vision, it's easy to drift through life and you're constantly reacting to what life is throwing at you. But when you have vision, it's like you take your life under control and you are the one who gets to call the shots and make the decisions about who you want to become and where you want to go. And so another question that I've pondered is, what's the difference between goals and vision? And what I've learned is that vision is like the umbrella. It's the overarching big picture idea. And then goals are the concrete, actionable steps that you can take to get to your vision. So, for example, let's say you wanted to run a marathon. You say, by the end of this year, I'm going to run my first marathon. That's the vision. That's the big picture. But then you would have to break that down, because there's not many people that could just get up and run a marathon without training or taking some steps. Most of us would have to start at the beginning, and you would make some concrete action plan goals, like say, okay, I need to buy myself 2 pairs of running shoes so that I can avoid injury. I need to buy a sports watch. I need to join a running club. I'm going to start by training so that I can run 5 kilometers without stopping and without walking. And then I want to run it under half an hour. Then I'm going to run my first 10K marathon, 10K race. Then on this date, I want to aim for a certain time on my first half marathon. And finally, through training and planning and dedication and just doing your little bit every single day, you will get to that point where you run the marathon and the vision is achieved. And so goals are the small actionable steps that you take to get to your vision. They turn an abstract idea into a plan action. So what are some of the benefits of journaling? So first of all, what is journaling, and how is journaling different to keeping a diary? So keeping a diary is the act of a chronological account of your life, where you take just the little bits of your day, and it's just a record of the external parts of your day, of some of the things you did or the things you achieved. But journaling, it's like where a diary keeps a record of external events. A journal is outside of time, and it doesn't bow to chronological time, because when you journal, you can journal about a flashback from a childhood trauma or a very happy childhood memory. You can journal into the future about an event that you are worried about that hasn't yet happened, or an event that you're really looking forward to. You can journal about your present. You can journal across the range of your emotions, your thoughts, even the dreams that you have at night, conversations you've had, goals and aspirations. And so journaling is like keeping a record of the events in your heart. And so it's keeping an internal account of what's going on inside you. And so the more that you do that, and the more that you take the time to jot down some of those thoughts, and over the weeks and the months and the years, you start to build up a catalog of your life and all the facets of your life. And what I have seen is that journaling really fosters self-awareness, and it brings a lot of clarity, because as you start to look back over your journal entries, you can see, okay, that's a trigger. That's something that I have struggled to find freedom in. And it's been 2 years and I'm still journaling about, this person makes me feel that way, and I haven't yet overcome that. It can help you identify blind spots that you have in your character. It can help you realize some of your thoughts and your emotions, and it can help you to identify the difference between the voice of truth and the voice of fear and lies. And so I've done an exercise before where I have journaled for a couple of days something that I have felt very strongly about. And then I'll take a green pen and a red pen, and I go back over a few journal entries, and I'll say, okay, what is the voice of truth and what is a lie? And I'll circle in green the things that are true, and then I'll see an emotion and I'll say, it feels real because my emotions are so strong, but that's a lie. And I can circle it in red, and then I can identify that, and I can then journal about that and find the voice of truth. And so I have found that journaling is so helpful for helping one to process their emotions, identify fears, and just to get perspective and clarity in their life. So I've recently completed a journal therapy diploma, and one of the aspects that I found most fascinating was the research that showed the physical benefits to journaling. And your physical and your mental well-being are actually affected by if you repress or express your emotions. And so, what research has shown is how bottling up your negative emotions will always leak out of you in some way. You can find that people start to develop migraines. Sometimes they can have skin conditions. Sometimes they have high blood pressure. It can even lead to heart problems and chronic illnesses. And when you take the time to, instead of repressing your emotions, and you actually take the time to be brave enough and deal with them, no matter how strong they are or how terrifying they are, then you separate yourself from them and you get them out, and they're no longer festering inside your physical body. And so journaling is just a good habit that helps you to regulate your emotions. And I've seen that some people find that their emotions are so strong, or there's an event in their life that has been so traumatic that they can't even go there, and they just bury it under busyness. But what I have learned about journaling is that it's a very, very gentle but powerful tool to help someone process through that, because you can write a little bit, and the minute it gets too much, you can just close the journal and put it away. And then when you face it again, you bring it out, you write a little bit more, and slowly, 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 as you are ready and at your speed, you can start to process and write about some of those things. And some of the other concerns that people have highlighted to me about that process is they've said, well, what if what is inside me is so ugly that I'm terrified someone will read it? I can't even write those things down. It's better just to stay inside me. And so my response to that is, it's not better to stay inside you. Get it out. And I've got a friend who paints her pages in black after she's written ugly things, or you can burn it, or you can tear it up afterwards. But the idea is just to get those emotions out. And what it starts to do when you are really raw and honest like that is that you start to get to know yourself. And Aristotle has that famous phrase, know thyself. And I have found that journaling is such a powerful tool for you to get to know yourself, because it's a catalog of all the events that have happened in your life or in your heart over the years. And you can start to identify what makes you happy, what makes you feel really drained, what are some of your hopes and dreams, what people make you feel energized. And as you start to write about those things, you start to find common threads, common purpose, and it starts to give you some clues of who you are meant to be and what you in your best form looks like. And so there's a theologian called John Piper, and he writes a phrase called "there are eyes in pens and pencils." And I have seen that firsthand in my own life, how when you start to write down some of the things that are happening in your heart, the page that you write on and that pen that you use, it reflects back to you like a mirror, and you start to see things about yourself, you start to see things about situations and other people, and it helps you to gain clarity and purpose. And so for me, living in Zim for the last few years, my journals have really become a mirror for me. I have noticed some consistent threads, consistent themes, things that I've continually struggled with, areas that I've grown. And out of that, I have been able to formulate, what is my vision? What is my purpose? Why am I here? And when things are hard and my emotions are screaming at me that I want to give up, I want to leave, I go back to the concrete truth and I say, no, this is why I am here. So one of my favorite quotes about writing is the writer Ernest Hemingway. And he says, write hard and clear about what hurts. And if you can write honestly, it will always pay off. And so I really encourage you to try that. Some of you would be very comfortable with journaling, and others will say, oh no, A, I don't have the time, and B, I was never a writer at school, my spelling's terrible, and that's not for me. And that's absolutely fine. Everyone will have their own relationship with journaling, and you can journal in your own way. And so what I wanted to suggest to you are just some fun ideas of how you can attempt to journal. I'm a very old-fashioned paper and pen in a notebook kind of girl. I'm not very artistic, and my writing is very boring and plain, and my expression of art is to use a different color pen. But I've got other friends who they paint in their journals, and they'll tear out magazine pictures, or they take Polaroid snapshots off their phone, and then they journal about it. And so they are much more creative and arty, and they are much more expressive. But one way that I have found is very approachable and very unintimidating for a startup journaler is to practice gratitude journaling. And what that is to just make a list of all the things that you are grateful for in your life. And it can be as simple as the smell of freshly baked bread, or it can be the laughter of your son, or it can be the cat purring on your lap, or whatever, just simple daily pleasures. And when you start to catch them, then you start to notice them, and you start to notice how many wonderful moments are in your life every single day. Because I think you can all agree with me that what we constantly look at in our lives becomes magnified. So if all you can see is the broken lawnmower, the bill that hasn't been paid, the car that keeps breaking down, and this trouble and that trouble, that is what your whole life feels like. But if you put on a different set of lenses and you start to take stock and be thankful for the tiny little moments of joy in your life, and you start to keep a list of them, you will see how quickly joy and gratitude can accrue in your life. And so alongside that, with the gratitude journaling, you can take one of those items like your son's laughter. And then if that's just a little bullet point that you've jotted, then you can take and turn that into 2 or 3 sentences. And you could say why you are grateful for that. And then you'll find it's like getting the juices flowing, and the ideas will start to come. And another thing alongside that you could add to that is to download something from Google or ChatGPT and type in guided journaling prompts to help me find my purpose. And actually, one of the things that I am going to send out after the call from my contribution is 10 leading questions that you can ask yourself to journal about, which will help lead you towards finding a vision and a purpose in your life. So you should be getting those, you'll be getting those prompts soon. And what I like to explain to people is that you can approach those questions like a snorkeler or a scuba diver. You can just skirt the surface of it and just take a quick look and take a quick glance and say, okay, that's good, I'm done. Or you can be a scuba diver and you can really dive deep, and you can write pages and pages and pages until you've got nothing left and you're done. And what you will find is that there will be some questions that will really appeal to you, and then there will be other questions that you don't need to answer in so much depth. And so it's a highly personal process, and you just need to, the questions that you are drawn to are the ones that you can, I encourage you to answer in more depth. And so another brilliant journaling option, this is for the more digitally arty people. This is something my daughter taught me 2 years ago, is that you can create a vision board using Pinterest pictures and Canva. So she had to teach me how to use all this technology. And she said, okay, Mom, what you need to do is let's think about 2025, and let's think about 10 things that you want to accomplish in 25. And so I jotted down a couple of phrases and thoughts. And then based on that, I then searched for the image in Pinterest. I found what I was looking for, and then I pulled it into Canva, and I then I spent a couple of hours creating this beautiful one-page snapshot of images, and I put it on as a screensaver for my year. And I've been looking at that every single day. So every time I open my laptop, I see 2025 looking at me. And so something like that is a really fun way to just think about what is your purpose for the year ahead or the season ahead in images. And so that really appeals to someone who is not so much of a pen and paper kind of person, but they respond more to images. And so that's something else that I am willing to offer one of you. I'm going to chat with Diane and get my email address sent out, and the first person to message me and who wants that service, I will sit with you and we'll have our own call for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then I will take some notes and I will design you your own Canva image board. So that's something that I would like to offer the first lucky person who emails me. So we can chat about that at a later stage. So that's kind of wraps up my talk. I think there's some questions. Are we taking questions now, Diane, or at the very end?
Oh, we can. So I don't think I saw any questions in the chat, but if anyone have any questions, they can put it in the chat, or they can raise their physical hand or the reactive hand, the reaction hand in the chat in Zoom. And Lisa will be more than happy to answer your question. But Lisa, I gotta say, what a generous gift to create someone's vision board. Thank you. And also the journaling prompts, another great gift. But to spend time, because we did a vision board party, and it was like it could be challenging for some, and I'm one of those people that's the challenge, getting the pictures and how to drag it in and how to. So yes, there goes Olga's.
Yes, well done, Olga. I saw a message from Christine. Do I journal every day? No, I don't. I think that's also one of the myths, that in order to be a journaler, you've got to journal every day. And so I would say I do journal very regularly. I'll go through phases where sometimes everything is calm and going well, and just a little check-in. A small journal entry is good. And then there'll be other times where there's something that I'm struggling with, or I'm sensing something, or I'm finding something difficult. And then I will journal. I'll go through a phase where I journal much more intensely. And I do try and wake up early, 5 every morning, and then my day starts at 6. And so I like to have that first part of the day. Sometimes I journal, sometimes I'll read an inspirational book, and sometimes I just sit and listen to the birds. So yeah, I don't journal every day, but I do journal regularly. So how vision boards work? Oh, where did that go? Hang on, let's just see here. How vision boards work when my biggest goals are inner world work, not so much material things. So I think that's a very good question. You could try and brainstorm and see what kind of picture, what I'm sure there would be a picture in your head of something, something that could represent your inner world. So if there was a little bit of conversation around it and some thought, I think that you could either, it doesn't always also have to be pictures. On the vision board, you can also create a phrase. And the other lovely thing that I've started doing for the last 3 years now is I try and come up with a phrase or a word for the year ahead, which helps, it helps me define the season that I feel that I'm in. So for example, in 2024, my word was adventure, because I felt that was lacking in my life, and I really wanted more adventure to come my way. And so I called it in, and I found pictures, and I wrote the word adventure across my vision board. And then that year, I happened to get 2 completely paid for free trips under different circumstances, one to Switzerland and one to Cape Town. And so that was just the most amazing confirmation, and that was what I was sensing, and that's what came to me. And so it's if it's not a picture, you can try and find phrases that would also explain what you are sensing in your life. What did you do with the goals that didn't manifest in the current year? So sometimes I carried them over into the following year, and they also sometimes they just fell away, and by the end of that, I'm quite a calendar person, so I like to work from January to December, but I also know in the UK your year kind of runs from September to August. So if you have chunks of seasons, I'll get some ideas or pictures and phrases for the season, and then at the end of the season I evaluate whether that is important enough to carry over. Maybe it hasn't happened yet, or it's still in the very early stages and it's still relevant. Or you might find that it actually wasn't that important and it didn't really happen and it didn't really matter. So I'll determine whether to carry it over or just to ignore it. I have phrases on the board such as love yourself first and everything else falls into line. Do it for your future self, make yourself a priority. Yeah, those are absolutely lovely. I think you are the person who will know yourself best, and you know what you need and what the season ahead looks like for you.
So we have a question we have Mother Miranda's hand is up, and then we have Chris. So we'll go to Mother Miranda and then Chris.
Okay.
Yes,
Are you there?
Mother Miranda. Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Where is my screen? Thank you very much for this presentation. I liked what you said at the beginning, the importance of vision and purpose, and clarity is big for me. You mentioned that we have moved away from the age of entertainment to the age of distraction. And I'm just wondering if such a statement rests with adults as against youth and children, because I'm wondering if they would be excited about this age, and such a statement is referring to adults more so than, as I said, youth and children. And if in fact this is in a way blinded by our young people, and therefore not achieving maybe what it is that you believe they could achieve had it not been for the label of distraction.
I think that the distraction is felt by everybody. It's not just children, and it's not a specific generation or a specific age group. I think that it is a pressure of society and just the way that our culture is going, that it is something that affects all of us. You look at kids now, toddlers, they can't yet read, but they can work their way around their mom's iPad and they know exactly what to do. Or I'm a school teacher by profession, and I find that I've actually stopped using screens in my class time because I find that the kids are so distracted that they'll quietly be playing Block Blast under their desks when they should be listening to me. And the minute that my back is turned to the board, they are distracted. And so I've just said, no, we are, I've got a digital board. And so I'm the one who controls the digital formatting in the classroom. And so I've tried to minimize the use of screens because of the distraction. And I make sure that when it's time to learn, they are focusing on me. And then I've even seen it in my parents and my in-laws. You know, they're in their 70s now, and in my kids and my friends and myself, I think that it is something that we all have to fight, and we've all got to be aware, and we've actually got to be educated on how to be bored again and how to be entertained without using digital devices. How many of us stand in a shopping line or a bank queue, and the first thing you do is you put your phone because you want to either play a game or you're sending a voice note, you're finding things to do. And so it is a culture and a society norm that is affecting all of us.
Great answer.
Thanks.
So thank you, Madam Miranda, for that great question. So now we're going to go to Chris, and because of time is getting away from us, Chris will be the last one. And if anyone else wants to put their question in the chat, I'm sure Lisa will answer it in the chat. So Chris, are you up? You're up next.
Yes. All right. Lisa, thank you for this presentation. The one thing that I'd ask as a person of faith, how do you discern a vision from God and a desire of the heart?
So I'm also a person of faith, and that has been a very, very personal question for me, because I have sometimes questioned my wants and desires against, is this what God wants and desires for me? And the answer that I came up with was a proverb that says, delight yourself in God, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And so as you do the first part and you submit to God, and you submit to allowing him to work on your heart, then what will happen is that he will change the desires of your heart. He will guide you. He will speak to you through pictures and images, and you will find that you will start to channel yourselves towards his purpose. And when you are actually doing what he has called you to do, it's the very thing that often makes you feel most alive. And it makes you feel like you have clicked with your purpose, and you've clicked with why you were meant to be born on this earth. And that is when the great levels of satisfaction and just a love of life will come into your life.
Thank you.